It's me, MLB. Here is part 6 of For Money. Enjoy. Oh, that was close. You okay? You panted to your female colleague that you had your arm firmly wrapped around as you pulled her out of that side of the river with you. She struggled to get to her feet initially, but finally she could stand, and she nodded and coughed and spluttered as she brought up the river water from her stomach and lungs. I'm okay, she gasped. I didn't know it was that slippery. Sorry for putting you in danger as well, she apologised to you. You shook your head. It's all part of the job, you replied, helping her get right out of the water. Quickly you turned and signalled to the guy on the other side that you and her were both okay, and he signed back with relief, and then started packing up his gear to come over. A little further up the river, the sides were closer together, so he could cross there, but for now he was just glad that his colleague was safe. But there was just something weird about the whole rescue, and as he packed up his rescue gear, he replayed the images in his head so that he could dissect them and make sense of what he'd seen. Who was that lady again? He asked himself, glancing at Mei Mei, who was standing and talking to you and the female colleague. Forensics, right? I don't think that's the whole truth, he thought as he picked up his rope and wound it back up. I saw her run down the side of the river and reach her hand out to Wayne, and then he grabbed onto thin air and was pulled to her side. I swear I saw something like that happen. Their hands never touched. He furrowed his brows and scratched his head with a small, confused shake of his head. What is really going on here? We've never needed extras before, too, he thought as he looked around the area to make sure that he had all his things before heading up off the river. Who cares what was stuck in those rocks? We know the others are already dead anyway. What I'm more concerned about now is who is this woman? You, Mei Mei, and your female colleague were all still standing on the riverbank talking when your other male colleague appeared from the tree line and walked over. Everyone okay? He asked as he approached your small group. Yes, thankfully, the female colleague said, wringing more water out of her hair. The male colleague looked at Mei Mei, who just gave him a side glance from under her front braid, and when she looked away, that's when he really had a good look at her, trying to see if she had some kind of rescue staff on her, but she clearly didn't, and he frowned. What was that she used to pull Wei into safety then? He mused internally to himself. You caught the look that he was giving Mei Mei, but didn't quite know what to make of that look, so cleared your throat to move the conversation along and possibly head back to the others. Okay, I think we can call this rescue mission a semi-success and head back to the others now and set up for camp. I doubt we'll find the final 2 bodies. Like you said, possibly washed into the river underground. You said, nodding your head at Mei Mei. She nodded. Yeah, we didn't find any other clues out here, aside from what looked like a boot stuck in the rocks, your female colleague said. That's what I was trying to retrieve when I got swept in, but I can't even be sure that it was a boot, she said skeptically. It's all good, you said. Let's head back, camp, and then make a call on it tomorrow. Yeah, sounds good to me, the female colleague said with a smile to you, and then Mei Mei, and Mei Mei just smiled politely back. Something is definitely odd about this one, the male colleague thought as he watched Mei Mei again. I wonder if my female colleague here has picked up on anything. Did she see Wayne grab onto thin air with his hand? If so, then what? What's going on? I don't really know what to make of it, but I'm determined to find out, he thought as he followed behind you all, heading back to where the other colleagues had been left to mine the other retrieved bodies. Camp setup went quickly, as it usually did. All of you are seasoned campers and knew your jobs to get the campsite set up quickly and effectively. The only concern was what to do with the retrieved bodies. As you can imagine, it could be risky to have a few day-old cadavers hanging around your campsite, starting to smell and swell and attract some unwanted guests like coyotes or bears. But thankfully you had retrieval bags with you, which contained some of the smell. But the best thing to do was to place the bodies in the trees so that they were off the ground and away from your tents. Nothing like sleeping next to a tree that had a dead body hanging in it. Fun. And so once the swags and fire had been set up, it came time to put the bodies in bags and pull them up the trees. The male colleague who had witnessed your rescue at the river offered to give you a hand to pull the bodies into the trees, and you happily accepted. You had no idea that he wanted to get you alone a little so that he could talk to you, but that was definitely his ulterior motive for offering to help you. And so once the 4 bodies were in their bags and ropes thrown over large branches, you started to haul them up the side of the tree. Your colleague was watching you closely as you worked and helped where he could. And then once you were done, he helped to tie them there and then walk with you the short distance back to camp. Hey, so, he said casually as you walked. Forensics lady. Yeah? You asked, keeping your eyes on the ground as you picked your way through the bush. Is that her line of work, forensics? He asked curiously. Yeah, I assume so. You replied back, looking at him to try and work out where this conversation was going. This might sound weird, but is she also a rescue expert or something? He asked you. Feeling like he had seen something or felt something, you went on the defensive, but also tried to get out of him what his true concerns were. I don't think so, in that regard, you said diplomatically, but she told me that she's gone on many similar missions to this one, so maybe she has a feel for the work that we do. Why? Was it how she came to my rescue when I jumped in earlier? You asked, now being the one to make pointed inquiries. No, not quite, but she helped pull you out of the river, didn't she? Your male colleague asked. You cast your mind back over the part where she had reached out to pull you over to the side of the river, and it was then that you remembered that you had grabbed onto her axe. Fudge. You grunted internally. Damn it. Either he saw me grab for thin air, or he actually saw the weapon, and he's mistaken it for some kind of rescue device. Your colleague waited. You hadn't replied to him yet, and he was starting to get even more suspicious that you were hiding something. YN? He asked your silent form. Yeah, she did. She's strong, right? You replied evasively. Yeah, she is. Did you grab her hand? He then asked you pointedly. Crap. What do I say? Oh, no, I didn't. Do I just lie? You panicked internally. YN, you okay? You're not answering me when I ask. Your colleague pushed. Look, I'm thinking, okay? The river water was everywhere and it was in my eyes and up my nose, and I don't have a clear image of grabbing a hand, but I must have. You lied tensely. Why does it matter? You then asked quite firmly. What's your problem of how I got out of the river? Your male colleague immediately backed off, not understanding why you had suddenly snapped like that. Oh, whoa, he said defensively. I was just asking. Sorry, it's been a bit of a stressful day, you admitted, but also diverting your anger at something else. You know this job is never easy. Your male colleague replied, giving you a side glance. Yeah, but you never break under pressure, he thought. This is the first time I've ever seen you so uptight about something. Back at camp, Mei Mei and Wee Wee were just standing by watching your colleagues go about their business, but the one weaker colleague who had almost died from curse suffocation was watching them just as much as they were watching everyone else. I know something is up with these two. Who are they and why are they here? What is going on? He wondered as he sat there scowling at them. He was just about to let curiosity get the better of him and ask them point blank what they were actually doing with you all, when you and the other male colleague walked back into view and he had to turn away so that it didn't look like he was about to go and interrogate the two newcomers to the team. How's everything going? You asked everyone as you stepped back into the camp. Good, everyone replied calmly, still getting last-minute things set up. Both the weaker male colleague and the male colleague who had just interrogated you about the river rescue threw suspicious glances at Mei Mei and Wee Wee again, watching Mei Mei especially warily. She was aware that some in the team were starting to become a little suspicious of her involvement in the strange happenings in the last few hours, but she was paying them no heed. It's not up to me to tell them what's really going on. I'm not being paid for that aspect, she thought as she remained standing with her back pressed to the tree behind her. It is up to YN to make the comments if he needs to. I think it would be better for him to tell them what's going on, and then for him to move into the sorcerer world. But that's just me. She thought as she closed her eyes and listened in for her crows that were flying around, keeping watch of the immediate area around the camp. Thankfully it appears to be a quiet night, she thought, lifting her head as one of her crows flew over and let out an eerie low caw as it did so. The second it flew over and she looked up, the weaker male colleague looked over at her, and then once the crow passed, she looked at him. He narrowed his eyes suspiciously at her. They're starting to smell a rat. We'll see what happens next week. Part 7 coming then. I'll see you then.